Good evening, everyone. I'm the storyteller, and I'm here to help you drift off to sleep with these horror stories that took place in shopping malls. Before we start, make sure you subscribe to the channel and like the video. I'd love to know where you're from and what time you're watching this, so kindly leave a comment. Thank you. It all began on a quiet Sunday afternoon. The sun hung lazily in the sky, and I decided to visit the shopping mall to pick up a few things. It was just another ordinary day, or so I thought. When I arrived, the mall was buzzing with life. Shoppers strolled through the wide hallways, families laughed over ice cream, and the sound of chatter and footsteps filled the air. I made my way into an electronics store, browsing through the latest gadgets. The store was sleek and modern, the bright lights reflecting off the glass display cases. As I examined a pair of headphones, a strange sensation crept over me, the distinct feeling of being watched. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe it was just my imagination, or perhaps someone else was simply browsing nearby. But when I turned slightly, I caught a glimpse of a man standing a few feet away, his gaze locked onto me. He was wearing a dark jacket, jeans, and a cap pulled low over his face. The moment our eyes met, he looked away, pretending to study a row of smartwatches. An uneasy feeling settled in my stomach, but I tried to shake it off. I continued shopping, making my way to the checkout counter. When I glanced over my shoulder, the man was still there, maintaining a careful distance. I left the store quickly, hoping it was just a coincidence, but as I moved through the mall, I spotted him again. No matter where I went, he was always there, never too close, but never too far. I decided to test my theory. I turned down an empty hallway near the restrooms, a place with fewer people. My heart pounded in my chest as I walked slowly, waiting. Sure enough, the man appeared at the other end of the corridor. He paused for a moment, then continued toward me. That was it. I was being followed. Panic surged through me. I ducked into a crowded clothing store, weaving between racks of clothes in an attempt to lose him. I picked up a random sweater and pretended to examine it in a nearby mirror. And there he was, reflected in the glass, standing at the entrance, scanning the store. I needed help. Without hesitation, I made my way to the mall security office. A uniformed guard sat behind a desk, flipping through a clipboard. "Someone's following me," I blurted out, breathless. The guard raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure? The mall is crowded. Maybe it's just a coincidence." "No," I insisted. "He's been watching me for the past half an hour. He even followed me down an empty hallway." The guard sighed, standing up. "All right, let's take a look." We stepped outside the office, but the man was gone. I scanned the crowd frantically, my pulse racing. "He was just here, I swear." The guard gave me a skeptical glance. "If you see him again, come back. Otherwise, try not to worry too much." Frustrated and shaken, I decided it was time to leave. I made my way toward the exit, my eyes darting in every direction. The late afternoon sunlight spilled through the glass doors, and I felt a slight sense of relief until I stepped outside. There, across the parking lot, leaning casually against a lamppost, was the man in the dark jacket. He wasn't pretending anymore. He was staring directly at me. And this time he smiled. My breath caught in my throat. I turned and bolted back into the mall, my mind racing. What did he want? Who was he? And more importantly, how was I going to get away? I didn't get far. Before I could make it back inside, a strong hand clamped down on my wrist, yanking me backward. I let out a scream, but the sound was swallowed by the rush of cars and the chatter of people nearby. The man twisted my arm, forcing me to the ground. My cheek scraped against the pavement as I struggled, my heart hammering in sheer terror. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," he murmured, his voice calm and deliberate. I thrashed against his grip, my breath coming in ragged gasps. Just as I felt despair creeping in, the sound of sirens filled the air. A police car screeched to a stop nearby, its lights flashing wildly. Several officers jumped out, their hands on their weapons. "Let her go," one of them commanded. The man hesitated for a split second, then bolted. The officers pursued him, their shouts echoing through the parking lot. One officer knelt beside me, asking if I was all right. Tears welled in my eyes as I nodded, barely able to process what had just happened. As I watched the officers disappear around the corner in pursuit of my stalker, one thought repeated in my mind. I had been lucky, but the fear that gripped me wouldn't let go so easily. What if he came back? What if next time I wasn't so lucky? Minutes later, a police officer returned and crouched beside me. "We got him," he said. "He won't be bothering you again." Relief washed over me, but the officer's next words sent a chill down my spine. "He's not just some random creep. He escaped from a psychiatric facility this morning. Highly unstable. You were incredibly lucky." My stomach twisted in horror. The way he had followed me, the way he had smiled, it all made sense now. He wasn't just watching me. He had chosen me. Even though he was caught, I knew I would never forget that day. The feeling of being hunted. The helplessness of realizing no one believed me until it was almost too late. From that moment on, I swore to always trust my instincts. Because sometimes, the danger is far more real than we could ever imagine.